Greetings, Internet, and welcome to another episode of My Cool Friends. If this is your first time joining us, let me say hello. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. It's Pikachu's birthday. If you think I made that up, no, it actually is Pikachu's birthday. I'm a weirdo who actually keeps track of that on the calendar.
Hello, happy birthday!
Oh my god, a fellow Funko Pop collector!
Hello!
Is that supposed to be Ozzy Osbourne?
No, it's Bram Stoker Dracula. It's Gary Oldman as Dracula.
Oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host. My name is Ben Ebig. Online leaders depend on me to guide their audience and bring them all together in a room while utilizing my tool, the Ebig Matrix, to avoid the heart-stopping overwhelm of technology. Today, my friends, we have heard a whisper in the wind. We have a very special guest with us today. She, like we've just seen in the introduction, is a fellow nerd. She is the host of her own podcast. What is this? My producer, I was not informed of this. We must go and subscribe to her. Ladies and gentlemen, here to tell us all about profitability and her special show. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Miss Heather Zeitzwolfe!
Thank you. Wow, all right. Yes. Woo! Yeah, all right.
You weren't expecting all this, were you?
No, but I'm loving it. Yeah. Hopefully I can live up to the hype. Jeez.
Heather, how are you today? Tell us about yourself.
I'm doing all right. I'm here in Portland, Oregon, where we're having a hot flash. No, that's what I'm having because I'm in menopause. We're having a heat flash, and I'm a little bit stinky right now, but that's about how I'm doing. But I'm so happy to be here with you, and that's cool that you collect Funko too. I brought my I'm having a hard time with the. Anyways, this is the plane guy from Fantasy Island. You're young, maybe you don't know that show, but
right. Like if I was to go over and collect, like show you my Funko Pops, like this is my guy. Who is that? I don't know. His name is Blue from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what that is. Okay, so we got an age difference.
His name is Joey from Yu-Gi-Oh! Who's that? I don't know. But Heather,
Yes.
Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so besides the fact that I'm all sweaty and I'm suffering from menopause, yes, I am a CPA, which is an accountant. But I try to not be such a boring one. That we have that stigma that we're boring, but not all accountants are boring. But I like to take the mystery and confusion out of the numbers and make people I don't know, have less shame around numbers. So that's my approach, and I like to get radical with your numbers. So I'm a child of the 80s, so everything's got to be totally awesome or radical. So that's how that's my jam. Do you guys,
right.
you kids your age still say jam?
No.
No.
we hardly even talk to each other face to face. We don't say anything. We just just huddle in the corner.
I said Coolio to somebody, and they're like, "Nobody says that anymore, Heather." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Well, then I will say it. I don't care what they do anymore. I said yes indeedy to someone one time, and they're like, "Where did you pick that up?" That's like from the 60s. No one says that.
Oh, it actually sounds like maybe like somebody that would like have a cane and walk around and yes indeedy or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know. This sounds like older. I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to have like maybe this is why we're vibing, because we tend to have that like self-aware humor about us.
Well, I always want to say jive turkey. Like that was like a thing in the 70s when I was a kid. And like, I've tried to bring jive turkey back so many times, but nobody is on the same page with me. They just like, no, I'm not going to say that. So
Yeah,
You jive turkey. Like,
I was talking with one of my foreign friends about like the weird things that we say, and one of them came out like, occasionally when like someone in America like will ask me like if I'm okay, they'll say like, "Oh, are you straight?" Like that has always felt okay. So like, have you not heard of this?
no.
Yeah, when someone says like if you're okay, like sometimes people will say, "Oh, are you straight?" That means are you okay? And I have always found this weird, and apparently this is just something that people do.
In other countries?
No, here.
Really?
Yes.
Is that a regional thing? Maybe. What is that like in like
I think
Michigan?
it's a southern thing.
Oh, a southern thing. Okay.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, are you straight?"
Mm. Weird. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard that before. Okay.
Yeah. So don't worry. Us like people today are also talking in weird dialects.
Well, I was hoping that my doll was going to talk, but yeah, because I collect weird dolls, and so I've got Samuel L. Jackson doll, and he normally has really great profanities that he says, but he's not working today, so
it's okay.
yeah.
We love Samuel Jackson all the same. This is the special edition of Samuel Jackson that has 2 eyes and no eye patch on him.
All right. Well, I was gonna say the snakes on the plane thing, and then I completely spaced it for a second. I was like, "What did he say about the snakes on the plane?" I'm gonna get those snakes or motherfucking plane or what. I don't know if you say bad words on your show, so
no, but we get it.
okay.
I love this. So anyway, hi everybody. If you came here for like financial advice, welcome to 10 minutes into the show.
Well, are we doing so? Who is your listenership? I know we were talking about my cool friends, but do you have a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the crowd? You have a lot of creatives that are out there?
Yeah, like I structure this as like we have like it's both entrepreneurs and creators. Like previously, I had someone who was he's a musician, and he's like not someone who you would put that label on there, but that label fits him quite well. And so like that I structure this show as very much like, oh hey, like like I'm looking to like buy a house. And then it's like, oh, hey, I interviewed someone one time who was like deep in the housing market. Go listen to that episode. Like, oh, I talked about this one time. Like, go listen to that. And so like, yeah, I almost have like these nuggets of like different experts that are like, oh, hey, you should totally like go listen to this interview that I did one time. And so like, it's not so much like a continual like thing. It's like, oh, hey, each individual thing has its own little gold mine per se.
Yeah. It's kind of like
special.
a magazine. A magazine would do that, to have different topics and stuff. Well, I work primarily with entrepreneurs in the creative space. So my background, I used to be in theater and fashion design, and then I went into market research and stuff like that before becoming an accountant. So I have this background where I love to work with creative people. I'm not going to do creative accounting, mind you, but I like to work with creatives. Because you can tell I'm a nerd and I'm kind of a weird.
Well, I got that from you when we met in Cammy's group.
Yeah.
And we had the whole like Brady Bunch setup of all the people like in the Zoom. Yeah, again, more dated references here. Hi everybody. And like you were the one who like immediately like your hair stood out. I think you had like pink hair that day.
Probably,
and
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know who this person is, but I want to talk to them. I want to get to know them. It's like, and now here we are.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, my hair now is it's called electric lizard, but it's kind of washed out.
Names.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is electric lizard is the color's name, but it's the same color. Yeah, but it's the same color as my backdrop. So my head disappears if I put one of those green screen images on. It's weird. This thing is reversed or something that I'm used to. So it's like I feel like I'm doing my hair in the opposite direction than I'm. Okay, there we go.
Oh, it's reversed. Oh no, it's like actually doing it in a mirror.
Yeah. So yeah. I know.
So Heather,
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll get off topic like 5 more times in this conversation.
Okay.
Don't you guys worry. But you are the numbers wizard. And so my question for you is like when we're like starting our business ventures or our creative journeys, whatever cat out of the bag that might be, she has a seashell with her. As wonderful.
It's a calculator. I was trying to like do like a Vogue thing and show you it was a calculator, and I was looking at myself. It didn't work because I can't figure out where the camera is. Okay.
I had a joke.
Oh, I'm sorry. Work. I interrupted your joke. Okay, sorry. I got distracted by my props. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's go
when you're in the wizardry numbers game, what's something that like might be a speed bump that like stops people from getting to that point of profitability, whether it be a physical speed bump or a mental speed bump? Because I find that a lot of times, like, when you view it like from the outside looking in, it's like, excellent math, how simple. And then once you get in there, it's not so simple. So where's the disconnect come in?
Yeah. So the disconnect a lot of times. So I work mainly with creatives, as I mentioned, and creatives, they are creative. They have some sort of passion that they, probably start a business because they are really good at some craft that they do, or they have this desire. Like I work with people that are in podcasting and stuff. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they went to business school or they know anything about accounting. And oftentimes it's the last thing people think about. Like they think like, I got to get my website up. I got to do marketing and all this stuff. And it's like, before they know it, now they've accumulated all these different transactions. They got some income coming in. They've spent some money and they haven't been tracking any of it. So then it just becomes this big pile of things that they really don't think about until they have to go to do their taxes. And then they're like, oh crap, I got to make sense of this. And so a lot of times when and this is stereotyping people, but in general, a lot of times people have like no idea. They're like, all they're thinking of is like, maybe I might have to send some money in for my taxes, or they're not thinking about that at all. So that's another thing. So people may make money and they're not thinking about the ramifications of tax. They're like, woohoo, I made this money. And then, comes April 15th when they're finally doing their tax return, they owe all kinds of money.
Yay.
Yeah. The money. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, the money comes in, but Uncle Sam, is going to take a percentage of that. And so that's another thing that people oftentimes forget. But yeah, so getting into it, and, part of that is also, so you mentioned the physical and the mental speed bumps. So part of that also is that outside, like if I'm not looking at that, then I don't need to deal with it. One of those kind of blind eye kind of thing. So they're not really concentrated on that. Maybe they might look at their bank statement. They might go to the ATM and they're like, yes, I got money in my account. All is good. So they're not thinking about like, okay, well, great. I just got a check from one of my, clients, but I owe one of my contractors the next week. And then there's this disconnect of, cash flow. So they're not thinking about that until maybe they go to pay somebody and they don't have any money in their bank account. So it's that like, I don't even want to deal with it, until sometimes it's just too late, because really, if you put the systems in place ahead of time, it's actually not that complicated.
I will leave tomorrow's problems for tomorrow's me. And then and then tomorrow's problems come and they're much worse.
Well, and I recently on my podcast, so my podcast is called Get the Balance Right, and I interviewed this photographer. We talked about photography business, and he was saying how, when he got into the business, he didn't know anything about, the numbers side of things until he got into a lot of trouble, financially. And he said, knowing your numbers is one of the most important things, that and taking a basic business class. So I think that's a great idea to take a basic business class, because then you sort of get a kind of an idea of like all the things you should be thinking about. Because oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. And if we don't know that we're not supposed to be like commingling our bank accounts, like, I mean, one of the first things you should do when you start a business is get a separate bank account. But if you don't know that that's going to mess things up, you probably aren't doing that. Just basic things like that.
Right, the things they don't teach you in school.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to school for some sort of creative business, we'll just say photography, or
Right.
I went to school for fashion design. Like, we did have a basic business class, but it was like, at the time, it wasn't really structured in like, you should pay attention to this because when you go out and start a business, you need to know these things. It was just like, oh, it's just something I need to know.
Yeah.
It's
and
just
you
a credit.
Oh, it's just things we should probably know. And like I went around, like I just started like, oh hey, like I had knowledgeable people about things, right? Like people that I trusted, like you. I had cool friends. And you describe yourself as a CPA. Like what exactly is a CPA?
Okay, so I call it a chimp practicing accountant, but that is, I used to have a picture of a chimp at a laptop because I was born in the year of the monkey, so I always think of myself as some sort of chimp, or I don't know. I was going to say baboon. I don't think I'm a baboon. Orangutan. I could be more like an orangutan. Anyways, what was I saying? Okay, so it's a certified public accountant. So you have to have a certain amount of schooling. You have to pass like a whole bunch of these like horrible tests. It's kind of like, like a lawyer has to pass the bar. It's very similar to something like that. In fact, they say that it's, could be even more difficult than passing the bar. I don't know. So each state is different, but so you have to go through you have to have a certain amount of credits, and then to even sit for it. And then you have to work with somebody in the field for a certain amount of time, and they have to kind of sign off on things. But yeah, so it takes a little while. So it's not just like you can put the name coach behind your name, Well, I mean, it's not, that, I don't know. I'm not disrespecting people that are coaches, and a lot of them are. A lot of them are certified.
How you really feel.
Well, a lot of them are certified and stuff, but people put coach behind their name, and it's not always backed up with something.
Mm-hmm. You've taken a test. You've actually like have some proper education, but you're not just someone who's good at math, basically.
I love math and I love spreadsheets. I get excited about that kind of stuff. I love that.
Outside of like the excitement of like math and all this stuff,
yeah.
I want to ask you about like just like basic. I want to ask you about these basic numbers, like these basic savings and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because I remember that like when I used to like one of the first few things that I would like save up for is like vacations. Like, oh hey, like $50 a week, but times this many weeks, like save it up for this much, and then pretty soon like, oh hey, reach this goal, and then pretty soon like, oh hey, cool, simple enough. Like, where does the sort of it seems like that gets disconnected so much for like the basic person out there, like just the concept of like saving or knowing your income and all that stuff. And yes, we could go into like nerdy spreadsheets and whatnot, but you could even do like, okay, estimate based on this much hundred, we know that we can set aside this much. Like, where do you feel like that becomes a disconnect? Is it oh hey, like so many of my bills are being taken away by the government, or is it more of a like, oh hey, like I just want to buy shiny things every single week? Like, where do you feel like is I want to ask about that disconnect, because I always remember that when I did it many years ago, it felt so simple, and then yet it feels like I watch so many adults screw up the simple.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't like the idea of budgeting. In fact, in my group program, we were talking about the word budget, and I was like, we're going to call it a spending plan because budget seems too confining. And so people don't like to do that kind of stuff. It's not fun, giving yourself restraints on your money. But a lot of it just comes from that attitude of ignoring what's going on. So they're not actually tracking the income that's coming in nor the expenses going out. So they're just working off of, what's going on in their bank. And it's like, okay, I pay these bills. I don't know what's left over at the end of the month. I guess I'll just take that. But they don't even think about like, what are the things that are going to be happening in the next month that they may need that money saved for, or
Right.
they don't pay themselves. Like oftentimes I see that where, you know, it, granted, you might be putting money back into your business, but at some point you should be paying yourself. And oftentimes, and it depends on the business owner. I'm not saying that this is a blanket statement for everyone, but one thing I do see a lot of when people first come to me is that they're paying contractors, but they're not paying themselves. Like they have a business and they've really just given themselves a job that pays less than minimum wage. I mean, that's what they're doing to
Mm.
themselves. So this idea of like thinking about a vacation and all that, that may be just like too far extreme. But I like, once we get their numbers in, into like some kind of books, like I use QuickBooks Online where they can review it. I can review it. You can use other tools. If you don't have that many transactions, you could use a spreadsheet if you don't mind looking at a spreadsheet. But once you've got the stuff in there, then you can actually start making determinations of like, hey, I could save up for this vacation and I should take this percentage and put it over there. And, some people have read like Profit First, and that is like intrigued them to think about like, oh, I should be paying myself first, which is great. So in that concept is that when the money comes in, you allocate it to something. So a certain percentage will go to yourself, certain percentage towards tax, and then the rest is to go towards the business or some kind of savings or something. So
Mhm.
it's getting comfortable with that kind of stuff, and that's why I want to have this shame-free feeling or shame-free environment around money, because people are so afraid to talk about it and they get embarrassed, and they'll be like, I don't even want to show you my stuff. I'm so embarrassed. It's like, it's okay. Really. I'm not going to be judgmental. And I've, I've seen quite a bit of mess before. So it's not going to surprise me when I see something. So it's kind of taking that away and making sure that people feel comfortable with it and being able to ask questions, because accounting can be really confusing if you've never looked at a balance sheet or a profit and loss before. It's like, what does that mean? Like all these things. So
Mhm.
it can be, but once you get over all that kind of stuff, then you can let those numbers empower your decisions. And, then you can really start to take calculated decisions in your business and have strategies around making money.
I want to talk about that, what you said around the shame of money. Uh because I'm sure there's many sides to that coin.
Mm-hmm.
Like is it the fact like, oh man, like I don't want to see, like I don't want to show you my, like I don't want to show you my accounting stuff because it's such a mess. Um is it also just like the fact that there's like, oh, like they don't want to clean their room because they know that it's such a mess? Or is it also because of the fact of like, oh, they're not, maybe they don't see themselves being in a state of profit, therefore they don't take the steps to be in a state of profit?
Oh yeah, it's both of those things for sure. And a lot of it is, so I offer workshops in money mindset. So actually you've got my link going by on Linktree, Get the Balance Right. I offer a monthly money mindset workshop. And what we talk about is how our money stories are ingrained in us from childhood. So
Right.
oftentimes these feelings we have around money, or money shame, or guilt, or maybe we just don't like it. We think like, oh, if I make money, I'm going to be thought of as greedy, or all these things really stem from your childhood or other types of maybe relationships that you had early on in your life that
Mm-hmm.
impacted you. And now it's like you carry that around with you. And so
Right.
as an entrepreneur, like if you were told that, like for me, my parents grew up during the Depression. So I was always very cheap with my money. So how that equates in my business was I didn't want to spend money to get help in my business. So I was doing everything until I was like, okay, I, I had a come to Jesus moment with my
Right.
mindset. And I was like, you know what? I could actually spend more time in more impactful ways in my business if I spent a little money and hired some people to help me. So just knowing your money mindset can help you like look at things differently in your business. Pricing is a huge thing that comes up for people. So maybe there's something deep in their childhood where they feel like they're not worthy of money or something. And then that
Oh.
will Yeah, so that will reflect on how they price themselves. So they'll
They're not
always like
worthy
devalue.
out today.
What's that?
I said maybe they're not maybe they feel like they're not worthy of eating out today, or small stuff like that.
It could be. It could be that. Or there's the flip side where it's like maybe they were brought up in a household where, maybe there wasn't a lot of money, and when the money did come in, it was like, "Hey, let's go have fun and let's spend this money."
Ah,
So, it could be that when they get money in their business, it's like, "Ooh, what are the bright shiny things that I can purchase?" "Oh, I need a new laptop. Oh, I love this software." It's like all these things that they can spend money on and not thinking about the fact that, you know, having money left over for yourself is a good thing. That's profit, and that's what sure you're going to get taxed on that, but at least that's what you have left over for yourself. So
mm-hmm.
it's really interesting how your childhood really has this major impact on you.
Yeah, I gave you the saving example, which is a true story. And I know that like when me and my brother were younger, we were always given an allowance. But when we were given that allowance, we were told to basically split that allowance. Like half of it was
Oh.
put into savings and half of it was put into spending. Uh, and this started like when we would have like a $1 allowance. We were given that $1 in quarters, and you would have 50 cents for yourself and 50 cents into savings. And then that was ingrained all through our entire lives. I'm like, hey, this is what savings does. Like, this is like the numbers add up basically. And I had a life experience where basically like I lost all my money, and like even though I like had a large experience where like I always had like a security net, I had this like feeling of like, oh hey, like I know what it feels like now to have my net worth be a negative number. And so whenever I have money, whether it be like a like large amount or whether it be like just a check, I it feels like I know the worth of that dollar a lot more.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, and it's so important to have some sort of safety net, whether I mean, in business or just, if you don't have your own business, it's always great to have a safety net because you just never know when emergencies are gonna come up. You could some sort of, health thing could come up. There
Right.
could just be, like I have cats and then, something happens to them and it's unexpected and suddenly now you've got like thousands of dollars you have to pay
Right.
and so I like to have a safety net too. I mean, it's really important to be able to utilize your money in ways like investing in things, but it is
Yeah.
good to have some reserve in case something happens. So I always advise people to have their own personal reserve and then also a reserve in their business.
Yeah, that's absolutely good advice. So I don't think I've shared this publicly yet. Um, but recently I was able to get a PS5. Uh, and I had that money. That money was in a reserve. Just like you're describing. Like for the past 6 months, I have just had a separate savings account, just named PS5. And whenever I saved up for that, I put it in that account, and in my own like mental mindset, that money was already spent. That money was this money has been spent on a thing that I know that will be coming into my life. And so like in my mind, like it wasn't like there was no if and or moving around finances for some sort of other shiny object. It would just sit there for this thing, and lo and behold, now it is in my life.
That's great. And so then you're able to spend cash, you can pay for it in full and not
Yeah.
worry about putting it on a credit card and then paying interest later because that's the other thing is, people get into credit card debt and then they end up spending way more on an item than it was, the retail price.
Right. It's like I really want this, so dopamine. I will pay more.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've been talking about these like money habits.
Mhm.
Uh, what are some? Tell me about like some of the services that like you offer, and I'm not just saying that as a like, oh, segue. Tell me about some of the services you offer. Like, Yes, as host, I should say that, but also like I'm personally very curious because this is like a conversation that I love to have about like, number one, good habits that will like instill in us for the rest of our life, but also like I talked at the beginning of this show, like, oh hey, like, why doesn't everyone have these like good habits, like something that we feel like is basic from the outside, and then once we get in the trenches, it's like this was very hard. What are some of the like ways that you help people?
Yeah, so I have a variety of services. So my last name is Zeitzwolfe, and I have a business called Zeitzwolfe Accounting, and I help people with bookkeeping and tax work. And then I also do advising as well. So people can come to me for like a strategy session to talk about their business, but I also offer ongoing profitability coaching. So or you can call it profitability advising or whatever, but it's around how can we get more profit in your business. So we can meet like one-on-one, like a whole, you can buy like a package deal, or you can just do it like a one-off kind of thing. And then I have some group programs. And but right now I'm really excited. I have a membership that I just started. And so that's going to be an ongoing thing where people can come in and we'll do monthly masterminds. We're going to be doing lead generation and then getting stuff done. And then there's a Slack channel so they can ask me all kinds of questions. And so I'm super excited about this new membership because, being an entrepreneur, it can be a lonely road. And if you don't have a supportive community that's there to like, just back you up and also hold you accountable. So
Right.
that's what the group is doing. And I'm so excited. So if you think that you need some kind of, support like that, let me know and I'll hook you up with the group.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Have you do you have any stories like either from your own life or from another person's life that you may either helped out or just simply know through osmosis, where like they were like on that alone journey, but like once they changed their circle, like things changed drastically, either through their business needs or through just a financial aspect, through like we've been talking this entire time, like through the money habit aspect?
Yeah, so I mean, I can speak about myself even. So when I became an entrepreneur, I didn't really have any other people I could talk to around it. Like I was, in some Facebook groups with some different accountants, but that's different. And so what happens is like I had all these ideas and I was just living in my head and not taking action on things because I
Right.
thought like, oh, I need to put this in place. I need to read this book. I need to take this other course. I need it, it's like I need this, I need that. And without somebody like a sounding board or holding you accountable, it's like you can put things, off and then put it off and oh, I need to listen to this podcast again or read this book. It's just like always like out there in the future. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I started finally getting coaches, that's when it started to make a difference for me. And then they had their own communities, and especially podcasting. Once I started podcasting, I started meeting other podcasters and getting into that community. And a lot of them are also entrepreneurs. They're very creative. And so just having that support system of people that are, trying to do something that's kind of different and out there, have a business and have a podcast. It's like, it's great when you have that camaraderie and this knowing of like what you're going through, because family doesn't really necessarily get it. Like they don't have a business that's online. Like it's a different world that we live in now where, things happen online. And, it's like the people that do have online businesses, we all know what a downloadable PDF is, like a,
Mm-hmm.
it's like for, the lead magnet, but people with a regular business don't know about lead magnets, like not the same kind of magnet as that. Like it's just words like that, and just I don't know. So family doesn't like, or maybe your family gets it. I don't know, but it's so nice to be in a community with other entrepreneurs that get it.
Thank you for unpausing the video, Cami. And yes, I do. Like I can tell you that my family, like they're like I'm not special just because I'm young. Okay. There's just as much disconnect there as it is anywhere else. Like I've partly modeled my like ideal person that I help after my dad, because he comes to me with just so many tech problems. That's like, I should be really getting paid for this. Wait, I can be getting paid for this. And there's so many people out there that like, you don't know how good of a like genius you are until you are sometimes put someplace else where there's like so many people that like don't know like how good you are at XYZ, how good you are with spreadsheets and numbers, until you are surrounded by people who struggle with like just keeping track of their own like spider webs.
Yeah, when you do things day in and day out, you kind of forget like, oh, people don't know about this, like, or it's just not obvious to other people, and yeah, it's funny how that works, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, again, the importance of like surrounding yourself with like different people. Like sometimes when you get caught in the echo chamber, you're the only voice that you hear.
Yeah, and I always believe that it's always best to not be the smartest person in the room, because there's no way that you're going to grow if you're always the smartest person in the room. So you want to be in a room with people that are always like 10 steps ahead of you at least, so that way you can learn something from them. So that I really truly believe that. I used to think like when I was younger, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be the smartest person, but that doesn't get you anywhere. It makes you stagnate. You always want to be around a group of people that will lift you up.
The number one smart person mistake is thinking you're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, look at that. What happened to Enron, right? There's that movie, The Smartest Guys in the Room. You know about that?
I'm not
Enron
familiar
movie?
with this. Please tell this story.
Oh, well, Enron was a giant corporation that went belly up, and there was all kinds of fraud that happened, and accounting fraud that happened. But there is a documentary. I'm pretty sure it's the Enron documentary called The Smartest Guys in the Room.
Speaking, perfect segue. You mentioned your podcast. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah. So I just started season 3. So this week I released episode 102. So this is, yay, I made it to season 3. So it's called Get the Balance Right, and it's for creative rebels, freaks, misfits, and geeks that are in media creation. So just like you, in media creation. And I do work with people that are, coaches and tattoo artists and a variety of other things as well. I have a lot of clients that are massage therapists and yoga instructors and that sort of thing. So it runs the gamut. But the podcast is geared towards creatives. And so I started a new thing this season, which I'm super excited about. So I'm going to be doing on-air coaching. So the last one I just released was an on-air coaching segment. So that's, podcasting is so interesting how like it can evolve over time. And so it was just strictly interviews before. Then I started introducing some solo shows, and now I'm doing this coaching too with it. So it's really fun.
I'm like, I want to check this out, and I want to personally like talk more about this. How long have you been doing your show?
I started, I guess it was probably during the pandemic. I think it was actually, I was working with a coach, and she was saying, well, you need to get on podcasts. And I was like, I don't even know anybody with a podcast. Like, to me, a podcast was like only like, I thought it was like Rich Roll, because I'm vegan, so I'd listen to his podcast. And it was like was that John Lee Dumas and Pat Flynn? Like I thought those were like, that was podcasting. So I was like, I can't get on those shows. Anyway, so I started to meet people that were in the podcasting world, and I was like, I'm going to just start my own podcast, and that'll help. So I did that. And then I started meeting more people in podcasting, and, they are the best people to have on your show, because they know that it's important to let other people know about the show. And they're just so giving. And the podcast community is such an awesome community. I mean, I absolutely adore all the people that I've met through podcasting. It's opened a lot of doors too through podcasting. Like I've got to interview people I would have never been able to have a a talk with,
Right.
like I talked to the guy and they contacted me. It was the guy from SEMrush. He's like the head of communication at SEMrush, which is like a big SEO corporation. Like,
Ooh.
why would he, like, I was like, he wants to be on my show? Like, what? So,
little old me.
yeah, so it was, so I've met a lot of cool people, and yeah, so I've had the director I've had writers, I've had producers of like the producer of Sharknado on the show. I've
Oh
had
man.
I've had famous writers. Yeah, it's really cool. So
That's awesome. Congratulations.
thanks.
Yeah, that's like it's so like how easy it is to like start your own show, and then just like how many people you can reach by just like, hey, I created something. Come hang out. Come hang out in my space. It's fun.
Yeah, totally. And it's, my show has evolved over time, but so each season has been a little bit differently, and I'm super excited about this season. So I took like a couple months off and did a bunch of recordings, and so I'm very jazzed about the people I'm going to have on this season.
Are you able to tease anything?
Well, so I am a vegan. I probably already mentioned that. And so
Yep.
I was like, I wanted to have some more vegans on my show. I have had quite a few, but I really wanted to have, so we're talking about people that create media. So there's okay, I'm going to screw up his name. The vegan black metal chef. He wrote this book called, so there's, in vegan cooking, there's seitan, and so it's a satanic cookbook is what he wrote. It's hilarious. So I got to interview him. I don't know if the sound quality is going to work. There was some issues with it, so maybe I might release it on video. But so I got a chance to meet him. I probably would have never been able to talk to him, and I've interviewed people that this one woman who wrote this book all about the histories of fairies, and then it's run the like photographers. I just interviewed this guy in England. I'm going to be releasing that one soon. That he does like synth music, and so it's just fun and cool.
That's so awesome. Congratulations, Heather.
Thanks.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Oh, well, if there are entrepreneurs out there that feel kind of nervous about their financial situation, it's best just to peel the Band-Aid off and take a look at what's going on, and you will be so much happier once you get it all figured out, ironed out. Work with a bookkeeper, or work with someone that's like can be like a virtual CFO, or somebody that can be there to support you and really explain to you what's going on, and just start to love the whole idea of looking at your numbers. I mean, a lot of people will look at their numbers when it comes to the marketing side of their business, but they won't look at the financial side. It's numbers are numbers. It's like, okay, you're looking at how many downloads you have or how many clicks you got or whatever. It's a similar thing. It's just numbers.
Lastly, where can people find you?
Yeah, so probably the easiest place would be Linktree at Get the Balance Right. You can sign up for my free workshops and all of that. I'm on Instagram. It's my last name at Zeitzwolfe, but you can also find me by looking up vegan CPA. I'll come up that way. And I have started a TikTok. I'm not that active on TikTok, but I'm trying to get like you young people and get on TikTok. So you can look me up there too.
Don't worry. We're not that great. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been our special guest, Heather Zeitzwolfe. If you are looking at your books and then you just look away, and then you go off into the distance, and you're like, that has dust on it for a reason. That has dust on it for a reason. If you are someone who has like just that creative spark in you, it's like, I am on a mission. I have a gift, but how in the world do we get math right? How how in the world do we have managed to do the hard thing? We have actually made money from a Twitch channel. We made money from our jazz music. But how do we actually get taxes right? Because for some reason, America is horrible. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we only present to you the greatest of cool friends, because that's what Heather is. And she changed forms and doesn't have pink hair anymore. She's evolved like a Pokemon.
Oh, I change my hair color all the time. Here, I want to, since you're bringing out your doll, I'm going to bring out mine. So this is a little cute Freddy Krueger.
Ooh.
I don't know if you can see him. Oh, crap. It's this. Hold on. Can you see him now? There he is.
I can.
Yeah, he's cute. I love Freddy Krueger. He's cute. Okay.
We're trust me, ladies and gentlemen, there's gonna be like 30 minutes after the cameras are turned off where we're just like showing off all our toys and all our Funko Pops. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another fantastic episode of My Cool Friends. We go live every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we're going to have a fun game of Trivia Murder Party.
Ooh.
Until then, next week, have a safe and fantastic weekend, and stay safe and stay healthy.